Anyway, it's about somebody called Cecily Brown. Has anybody heard of her? An artist?
No, I haven't.
No, well, neither had I until it was pointed out in an article I wrote that she's got an exhibition at the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art, which, together with MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art, is the sort of a real prime place for anybody to get an exhibition. So it means she's quite famous. So
yes, massive.
Let's have a look at what she's up to. So this painting that's behind the text there is called Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, and it was painted by her in 1997, 1998. Brown was born in London in 1969, attended the Slade School of Art, and her early work was influenced by Francis Bacon. Now, the interesting thing about that is that her father, the art critic David Sylvester, was also known as Bacon's Boswell. He was very, very close to him, as was his mother. So she was taken to see his exhibitions about the age of 4, I think. But at that time, she didn't realize that David Sylvester was her father because her mother was married to somebody else. She just thought he was like an uncle. It was only when she was 21 that she discovered he was her father. Anyway, which is also, somebody's made the point about, have you heard the phrase Nepo? Meaning Nepo babies?
No.
It means people who are born into the privilege of a family that's successful in a particular area. Nepotism, it comes from. Nepotism.
Yeah. Oh, right. No.
So in a way, she can be very much seen as a Nepo baby in art, because her mother was a novelist, her father was an art critic, and she had 2 uncles who were quite famous artists as well. So she, not to put anything against her, she was extremely successful at the Slade and did really well there. This is a picture of her.
Oh, attractive.
She is attractive. Now, is part of her success is that she fits the part. You know, she's very photographable. And so she was made famous. One of the reasons she was made famous is because of an article in Vanity Fair. But anyway, she moved to New York in 1994. She'd previously been there on a placement as a student at the Slade School of Art, where she got her first. And then she decided to stay there, and she's been there ever since. So she's now 54. So half of her life, more than half of her life, has been spent in New York. And from the age of 3, she wanted to be an artist. As I said, she was taken to various. She's now married to an architecture critic, Nikolai Urusarov, and they have 1 daughter. So it shouldn't be that relevant, just the background to a person. But I always find it interesting looking at the background. Now, this is one of her paintings. It's called Death and the Maid. Does anybody know what that perhaps relates to?
Can't make it out at all.
to any music?
Yeah, Schubert, Death and the Maiden.
That's right, yeah, Death and the Maiden. So it is, I think, related to that in some kind of way. And this is one commentator about it. Inspired by the fantastical visual worlds of Hieronymus Bosch and Francisco Goya, the organizational principles of William Hogarth, and the gestural expressionism of Wilhelm de Kooning, Brown creates energetic and atmospheric canvases that swirl with fragmented bodies. So there you go. So
I was going to say that about the first one. There were body parts all over it.
So Brown said in an interview, one of the main things I would like my work to do is to reveal slowly, continuously, and for you never to feel that you really finished looking at something. Now, this is one of her early paintings, and there were her famous bunny paintings of cavorting, scheming bunny rabbits slipping in and out of worlds of colour, when it were, in her own words, highly charged, frenzied spectacles involving orgiastic rituals with an element of black comedy. So I can't particularly see it in this one, but this is one of the series of it. And she nearly always paints with oil, either on board or on canvas. So why is she important? Well, this is the picture from a Vanity Fair. shoot that she did. There she is in a t-shirt with the American dollar on it. I think it's a dollar. And but these are the comments of some of the early commentators about her. Why is she important? In exploring issues of sexuality in painting from a feminine perspective, it amplifies the eroticism frequently noted in modernist painting, especially abstract expressionism, and satirizes the notion of virility often attributed to such work. So her first solo show was done in Soho. That's Soho in America, not the Soho in London, in New York. It was put on by Jeffrey Deitch, a pinstripe suit-wearing former Citibank art advisor, and he signed her up with Gagosian, which is a famous private gallery. So we're talking about people, I think, who invest an awful lot in art. And remember, art is a commodity as well as a cultural object. So those were her first solo, and she was crowned in 2000 when she was photographed by Vanity Fair, lying in front of one of her paintings, wearing a t-shirt emblazoned with a dollar sign. And you can see it's a great photo, isn't it? It really is good, and shows the size of some of the paintings as well, which are huge. This is called the Pajama Game from one of her reasonably earlier works. Wilhelm de Kooning wrote that flesh was the reason oil paint was invented, and that's the reason she seemed to revel in the pliability of using oils. It's very viscous and tactile. This Pajama Game one went for $1.6 million.
Good gracious.
So she soon went up the scale of art sales, if you like. And I suppose it seems a bit unfair to just look at the price of things, but it is important, isn't it? It's no two ways of getting at it. Now, this one I quite like. I quite like it because of the yellow in it. I think they're really, really, really good colours in this one. The can. This is somebody's commentator when he saw it at the Kuma Museum. The sexiest painting I've ever seen. This painting is a turn on. I love the colour. The energy. Portions of this painting look like it could have been painted while having sex. Wild, uninhibited. Painted before she was 30. The enormous canvas measures 6 feet by 7 foot wide and rides with fleshy, tangled body parts in the act. Brilliant lemon yellow pierced by seafoam green. A wriggling orgy of a picture. Breasts, erect penises, legs and buttocks. Dangerous curves, faces in ecstasy, erotic, dirty, rough. Swishing, swirling paint laid on thick, representing swishing, swirling bodies. It's a physical painting of a physical subject. The hand of the artist is everywhere. It's fast, messy, just like actions it portrays. Well, I don't know whether you read all that in that, but you can see there seems to be, art has got several aspects, one of which is just you look at a painting and you look at it and you decide one way or another whether you like it. You see it as an object which is worth a lot of money, which is another way of looking at it and may change your views. And you also look at the comments that people who, in inverted commas, know about art make about it, which changes your views on it. But I think this is an interesting example of it. And again,
so is it pornography then?
Well, that's what some people say. That's what some people say. That, and she doesn't shy away from that. But she's saying it's from a feminist point of view, and that it's never part of the male gaze. I think there's an erect penis on the left, for example, you can see, which is rather weirdly drawn. But there you go. I think you make up your own mind on that. But I don't particularly see this as pornographic myself. But maybe that's
I don't.
That's because we can't see it in the detail, perhaps.
It's honesty. It's just utter honesty. And I have a real problem with society that doesn't grab the openness and the honesty of an artist who is portraying everyday life through her eyes or his eyes that we all engage in at one time or other. And I think it can be utterly just duplicitous to then try and define it as whether you like it or you don't like it. Just look at what she's looking at and projecting.
No, it's a perfectly valid point, that, Bill. I think that's a very fair point. But I think it still gets down to whether, after having seen comments about it, after having other people's reactions to it, you see it any differently.
Sure,
If it was, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
If it was photographic of real people, would that make it not all right? Because it's a painting, isn't it? So it's a translation. So would the same thing, if you were faced with the same thing, but it was all pictures of real people, would that stop it being art?
Well, it doesn't stop it.
I ask the question like that, and I understand why you're asking the question like that, but that question completely removes you from the internal view of the artist.
I think, looking at that, I think that painting is still painted for a male gaze. It might be painted by a woman, but it's still, I don't know.
It is quite titillating, isn't it, really?
Yeah,
that's the right word.
It's just right on it.
Who would be entertained with this? Would it be entertained more by a man than a woman, or is it equal?
Well, the reviewer was obviously turned on by it, but it doesn't do anything for me, I'm afraid.
And that was a man, by the way. Yes.
Yeah.
But the use of the use of the word entertainment belies the view in terms of a product that is meant to be there for your entertainment, and you can take it any way you wish. But the definition, and especially when you put together nepotistic remarks, money, who's earning what, all to do with product, that diverts the attention from what is it an artist is saying. And that's what we need to focus on.
Can I just say, she would have known fine well what the effect would have been and what the responses would have been, and how it would have provoked the sort of commentary that it did.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm moving on quickly. This is from a November 2020 version issue of Vanity Fair, and it's Artists in Their Studios sequence series. Cecily Brown, Blenheim Palace is a charged canvas for this subversive painter's dizzying new exhibition. And you can see some of she obviously puts a lot of work in. Some of these canvases are huge, much bigger than the one that's behind her. The other thing that somebody pointed out is that painting in oils is very, very expensive. Just thought I'd put that in. That's why a lot of young artists don't use it. They just can't afford the oils. Anyway, but that, again, it's not just looking at the canvas there, is it? It's looking at the person who's painted the canvas. She has commented quite a lot on her own work. And while she hasn't used that term, I think a lot of it does allude to that she's trying to subvert common themes and common approaches to it and approach it from a feminist way. That's what she's saying that she's doing. This is called Suddenly Last Summer in 1999.
That's Tennessee Wood.
And it sold for 6.8 million. So her value had gone up in 10 years from 1 million to 6.8 million dollars. And again, we shouldn't be looking at things and how much they cost, but I'm just saying the art market saw her as a great artist who somebody be willing to pay a lot of money for one of her paintings. Not all of them go for this kind of price, but
she can certainly afford her oil paints.
Is that a dog in the middle there?
It looks like it, doesn't it? I mean, one of the things about her paintings that she does say is that you can study it for a longer time and still see new things in it.
There's more than one dog, isn't there?
There's one down at the bottom right.
There are no erect penises in this one, though, Bernard.
I can see loads. I can see loads of them.
Oh, yes, there is.
Oh, there. Oh, I missed that then.
Anyway, that painting made her one of the most expensive living female artists, along with fellow Slade graduate Jenny Saville, another painter of the flesh and its appetites. That was the commentary on this. So again, to be, looking at that, you can see there is a lot there to look at. And imagine if you get closer up to it and get a more detailed view of it. It's something where I think actually looking at the canvas must help your interpretation of it, because you can see much more detail and the texture of the paint, which I think is quite important to her.
Yeah, I'm finding all these pictures have no perspective. So she's painting on a one flesh level, if that makes sense. Your eye isn't going in to any depth. There's no take. It's not taking you through anywhere, is it? It's sort of like looking at a jigsaw.
Yeah.
That's very interesting, because that's very similar to one of the critiques that some of her critics have made about her. Is along similar lines. I'll come back onto that. This one's a quite interesting one. It's called Carnival and Lent. Any idea what this alludes to? What previous painting this alludes to? You certainly get a point if you get this one.
It's like a cave, isn't it? I can see like a cave at the top left there, like what's in, I don't know.
But anyway, apparently it was, actually close. Inspired by Bruegel's scene of the same name. And just to let you know what that one looked like, this was painted a few years earlier, 1559. And it's the fight between Carnival and Lent.
Okay, and you've immediately got perspective, and you can see through. Your eye can go through. Whereas she doesn't take you anywhere, does she?
You rest your case. Yeah.
I absolutely disagree. If you look at the painting,
please feel free to disagree. Not a problem.
The way in which we look, TJ, just take the time with it. You have to take the time. You can see in the middle there, it looks like you can go right into that painting and see distance. You see 3D. You can see the passage.
No, I'm just getting a migraine, Bill.
All right. Well.
No, it's a good point, Bill. And when you said that, I could see like a building in the back of it, just to the right. But anyway,
and there's a man in the almost in the middle. Looks with a black skin, and he looks as if he's just wearing something over his bits and pieces.
He looks like he's got glasses on, and he's turned to the right.
That's right. And then if you look right up at the top, you can see what could be an old-fashioned railway sign, and behind it there's a big crane, and there's buildings if you look really closely, and there's somebody right down in that right-hand corner by a tree, and are those cooking pots on the other side. There's a lot going on.
And there's a hell of a lot of movement. There's movement and as you allow your eye to follow through, you've got to take.
Well, I think both of you done a very good description of it there, and I see a lot more in it now myself as well. Now that you've said that,
I think if you looked at the Bruegel from the point of view of moving image, and you instead of a frozen moment in time, you've got moving image. And if you could be in that scene, taking images of it, and then put those images together and slow them down, you would see blurred motion, you would see movement, you would see depth, and that's what she's done.
Yeah.
Quite
anyway,
right, Bill. Right.
Let's just say hello to Pieter Bruegel. Jackie, you did something on him, didn't you, in the past?
Yes, if you remember, I can't remember how I did
Did we look at this one before?
Yeah,
yes,
I did.
Yeah,
I recognise this one. We have seen this before.
What we did was we focused on a character and thought what they might be saying to each other, what they might be doing. And we did it like little improvisation.
That's right. And it was almost endless, the sort of things that you could, because there are over, apparently somebody's counted them up, there are over 200 characters in this scene.
Wow. How big is the picture?
6 inches by 6 inches. No, it isn't. I don't know. Quite big, I imagine.
It's not far from Hieronymus Bosch, isn't it?
No. Anyway, I mean, just in passing, it was an interesting comparison. I didn't know about the whole thing about the personification of Shrove Tuesday and Lent, and that the left-hand side was about Shrove Tuesday and the right-hand side was about Lent, apparently. And there's all sorts of complexities in it, but let's not get stuck on Bruegel. This is one of their earlier works called Four Letter Heaven, the animation cells, 1995. And they're very different again, aren't they? Very different again. People talked about her bravura brushwork and point out the art historical precedents and motifs. What's more difficult is to define her work's relation to our own carnality, to the opulence and squalor of our daily life. This is one of us. Could all the nightmares came today? To which must have taken a long time, because it says 2012 to 2019. This was produced with, this is what it said on the website about this. This was produced with the support of Kering, a global luxury group committed to the empowerment of women. Yeah, that's an interesting phrase. A global luxury group committed to the empowerment of women. This charitable limited edition print is part of a portfolio celebrating Phaidon's Great Women Artists, the most extensive illustrated book on women artists ever published. And they describe this one as being a mixture of abstraction and figuration, transcending classical notions of genre and narrative. By referring to the visual worlds of Bosch and Goya, the organizational principles of Hogarth, the general gestural expressions of de Kooning, Brown creates energy and atmospheric canvases that swirl with fragmented bodies. But I'll keep on going. The Wanton Boy 2020, it sold for $250,000 in a virtual auction conducted by Christie's in 2020. It was done for charity to help with the research into COVID vaccines. I quite like that one, actually. Very good on titles. Commentators on Cecily. What's really missing in their art is character, and for all the hectic painting, a sense of necessity. That's The Guardian. Instead of powerful and passionate, her voice comes across as detached. The volume is turned up, but the verve is on low. Los Angeles Times. Though that particular commentator, after seeing the latest exhibition, changed his mind and said, "I got her wrong. She is good." But look at the size of that one, that painting.
God,
it's
amazing.
Huge, isn't it? It's huge. The scale of it is incredible, really. Maiden landscape. That's the last one. Again, another one I quite like, actually. 17 by 23, a smaller sort of painting.
Very interesting, yeah.
Bernard, I
Yeah?
suggest that you should research into who gets what in terms of, you people try and define a piece of art, or they tell you, as you've been doing it, it went for certain millions and certain millions. Who gets a cut of the pie? The artist never gets that amount of money. And we must, it would be really interesting if you could research into what does the auction company get, what percentage does the auction house get, what percentage do the managements get, what percentage do the publicity owners get, because it's image as well, and there's copyright image defined and done. It'd be really interesting to see.
Bill,
because
whoever suggests does.
yes.
I think it's a good idea, but it'd be good to have somebody else doing that.
Just remember people
Yes.
And they have big walls to fill.
and they have big walls to fill now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although most of them won't be in big walls, they'll be somewhere where you've got security, making sure that no one's going to come in and nick them.
I remember a friend of mine in the 70s or 80s used to go around to new housing estates with paintings that have been done, these really easy ones that you do with bits of string and thing on them, on a black background. And because he sold them because people had empty walls to fill on new housing estates, which I thought was a very clever technique.
Yeah,